Welcome to Tech Talk Unfiltered, brought to you by ANVCS Community Services. This is Eric,
Hi, and this is Veda.
and we represent ANVCS Community Services, a nonprofit organization focusing on technology for seniors, teaching them one click at a time. Hey, Veda, before we get started here, we should probably thank the people who make ANVCS possible.
Absolutely. We should thank our grantors and our partners, our sponsors, Peninsula Healthcare District, Dignity
Yep,
Health,
yep,
Sequoia Healthcare District, Silicon Valley
absolutely.
Community Foundation, El Camino Healthcare District, and then, of course, all of our other sponsors, the Rotary, Comcast, Touchpoint, Health Trust. There's just so many partners that without them, we wouldn't be able to do this.
Yeah, Los Altos Mountain View Community Fund as well.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, we also are all over the place. Eschaton. Eschaton is a couple of different places. You're
Yes,
in Sacramento, in Carmichael. It's a
correct.
fabulous place. But they also run the Truesdale down here that is,
In Burlingame.
yeah, that's part of Peninsula Health, Peninsula Hospital, actually.
Yes.
But, we love working with our city partners as well. City of Milpitas, Redwood City, Mountain View. We're all over the place. And so, if people are interested in learning a little bit about technology, they should check out our website at www.a as in Apple, N as in Nancy, V as in Victor, C as in Charlie, S as in Sam.org, ANVCS.org. We'll put that out there and we'll remind everybody out there later. Hey, so today we're going to talk about passwords. Passwords is kind of the bane of everybody's existence. How many passwords? Let me ask you a question. How many passwords do you think you have?
It's over 400
And how do you know that?
because I have a password manager that tells me.
All right. And so I have one too. I actually do a combination of things. I use the password manager. I use my browser. I do a whole bunch of different things, and we're going to talk about this. But as much as we hate passwords, it's kind of a necessary evil at this point.
Yeah,
With
if
where
we
we're
didn't
at.
have passwords, then anybody would be able to get into our accounts, and we just don't want that.
Yes. Yes. And so, we do a lot of research on this stuff, and we talk about, how do you guys remember, how do you guys do your passwords? Um, and most of the people try to memorize them. I don't know about you, but with 400 of them, I don't think I can remember of them or all
No,
of them.
not even with my pattern thing can I do that. It's because you have to mix it up, right? So no, I don't memorize it at all.
Yeah, not to bring down the feeling of all this stuff. But what we tell people to do is to make sure, and all the experts actually tell you to do is have a unique password for every account. And the reason
Exactly.
why I don't want to bring us down, but I did have a person who I helped. He got hacked. He had his phone stolen and his email stolen, and he used the same password for almost everything.
The exact same password?
Just about, yeah. It was a
Oh
variation of
no.
of one that was basically three. And when he got hacked, they basically opened up 30 email or 30 online accounts, and that story came to a tragic end.
Right.
That's the gentleman that had a heart attack because of the stress that was caused. Even though we got everything back, it's a scary thing that you get your accounts hacked and all these accounts start popping up. You get all these gazillion emails saying that, hey, we've opened up these accounts. It's overwhelming. And what this could have easily been avoided if he had just used unique passwords for at least his most important accounts.
Correct.
And so we're going to talk about it today, and we're going to talk about passwords, and we're going to talk about our methodology and what we recommend to do with passwords. And then we're going to talk about, I think, two-factor authentication. We're going to talk about authenticator apps, and we're going to talk about, password managers at the end. But love them or hate them, we have to have passwords. Now, let me ask you another question about this. You said you had over 400. I probably have 400, 500, whatever, right? There's a ton of them that we have. And whenever we teach this class, I always tell our senior community, I really don't have an issue with them writing them down. I would
No.
prefer them to write them down on a piece of paper with a little bit of code, but writing them down and not and then putting them in like a file that's a file cabinet that has lots of different files in it, lots of different papers on it. We tell people just don't put it on an obvious place like a refrigerator that says passwords, or a or a book that sits on your desk that has
That's a
passwords all over it.
password.
And I know a bunch of people that have those notebooks that it says passwords because somebody gave it to them.
Correct.
And so, if somebody's going to rob your house, they're not going to rifle through your papers and files to find a piece of paper that says passwords on it. But they will take your laptop and they will take your jewelry and some other things if they did break in. So, putting it on a piece of paper in my mind isn't a bad thing.
As long as you, like you said, as long as it's in a place that's hard to find and it's semi-secure, preferably even fireproof, but we can't always have all that.
That's for another class and another tech talk when we talk about disaster preparedness.
Exactly.
Hey, so one of the things we should do is, what we should do is define what passwords are, and we should talk about it as a math problem because I always look at passwords as basically a math problem. There's only so many keys on a keyboard. There's only so many iterations of the keyboard, and so when we talk about things like what's a brute force attack, which I don't know that they do as much anymore. We have these conversations. I don't know that they do brute force attacks as much as they used to because of their security has happened, but I think it's still out there.
Well, that's the thing that social media has really affected in the security space is now there's so much information out there about us and our personal life that people really do scour our social media profiles to find information about us that they can then predict what would be components of our password. Like birthdays, children's names, pets' names. Those things that are obvious that people can look up in social media often end up in somebody's password, and that ends up being a weak point.
Right. And also, though, people like to keep their passwords short and we like to keep them longer. That's why I go back to being a math problem.
Yes.
So the math problem, the way if you want to understand what that talks about is, a regular 8 character password, there's about 218 trillion combinations. It takes about a second for a good computer to run through those combinations. And so, we should, but what happens is, and it's not exponential, but every kind of character you add, it grows in a huge fashion. I mean, if you go from an 8 character and there's 218 trillion, and then you go to 20 characters, it's like 704 gigazillion combinations of
Right.
whatever. I don't even know what the number is, but there is a number for it. I mean, so when we talk about it, we do say that, longer is better. In fact, your favorite thing is we like to talk about passphrases.
Correct.
So let's talk about what a passphrase is. So a regular password, 8 characters, 9 characters, Samuel 123. Easy, 218 trillion combination. Boom. Samuel's probably a relative of yours. And then 123 is obviously the first three number sequences there. But what is a passphrase? You tell me, you tell our audience what a passphrase is.
So for me, I like a passphrase to be typically 3 or 4 words that are united by a theme that we can remember. I mean, something that we're typically passionate about or something that we see every day. My passphrases, typically come from events in my life, and so they're descriptors about it. Or they could be descriptors of something that somebody does. Like when I was working with one of our clients, they have a little brown dog, that they sing Good Morning Sunshine to in the morning when they feed the dog, right? So we had brown fur morning sunshine. Those were the 4 words they set up for their passphrase, and they remembered it so easily, right?
Yeah, of
Now, of course, since we use that as an example, it wasn't exactly what they were doing, but it was
course.
related to that, right? But you can see how personal that is, and yet it's not public information everybody could look up. How many people know that they sing that song to their dog, right? And so ends up being a phrase that's very recognizable to them, very easy to remember. And almost every password manager, or not manager, but every password man thing that's online will accept it. And it's very long. It's 4 words, and they just customize it with prefixes or suffixes to make it unique for the particular service.
Luke, I am your father. There is no try. Try not. There's
Correct.
only do. Right. And so
Right.
yes, those are passphrases. And it kind of takes us to the second part of it. So we talk about passphrases, but then we talk about, well, we should back up. So passphrases are great, right? We want everybody to be encouraged to use passphrases because they are longer, they're easier to remember. You're using common words, but there's a little bit more to it. And
Correct.
so, we tell everybody that you should tier your passwords.
Correct.
And so there could be 2 tiers, it could be 3 tiers. We typically say there's 3 tiers, tier one or level one, or the most important ones are your financials, anything that has your social security number, your investment accounts, things like that. Those should be your longest, strongest, and the most unique. And really, there's only 3 or 4 of those for most people. You might have a
Correct.
bank account, you might have an investment account. And it should be really clear. We're not talking about credit cards in that.
Right.
We're just talking about things that have cash in it.
Right.
And so those should be really good and really, really strong, whether it's life is like a box of chocolates or something like that, or a nice song title or a
Or a
movie
lyric.
title or a lyric, something that we know inherently that's not associated with your personal life. It's not your kids' names. That's not your mother's name and father's names. It's not your pets' names, even. It's not your old address because you know what? We can look up at the U.S. Census, and if you're good about filling out your census, we can find out where you used to live, and we can probably find out who your children are.
Correct.
It's not really hard to do that stuff, and so you know. But anyways, back to what we're talking about is tier your passwords. The first level being, the financials, and those should all be hard, long, hard to figure out, and should be your most secretive ones. And then we have, this gray area, and I struggle sometimes when we talk about this because level two is really important, but it's not as important as your financials.
Correct.
But if they get your email, life is like horrible. Your
Because
digital
they
life
can
is
look up
horrible.
so many things that are going through your emails.
And so I'm almost wanting to put email passwords in tier one, which
Wow.
makes
Okay.
just because again, and we'll talk about this, two-factor authentication filters out 99.9% of identity theft. But if they get your email, they can reset your passwords.
Yes.
And so that's why I'm saying I'm almost wanting to put email passwords in that same category because it's so important.
Wow. For me, I treat my email password with the same care I do my shopping passwords like Amazon, Shopify, those types of things. So, to me, it
I
is
don't think I
relatively
don't
good
think it's
care.
this I don't think it's the same anymore.
Hmm.
I just don't think it's the same anymore because, if you go to Shopify, they have, a couple layers in between. If you go to Amazon, they got a couple layers in between and probably a credit card. And credit card companies are really good about identifying theft and stopping charges. And I don't know what they do on the back end. Maybe they delay payment and if they see something funny going on. But they're really good about getting your money back. But again, it might be too late if they've reset your passwords and a couple of days go by, and especially if you don't have the right help to recover that. Or
Yes,
just
because
for example, you don't have your cell phone number in there in addition to your email, then we're really in trouble.
correct. So now how do we recover from all this without
Right.
because our email password has been reset because somebody hacked it.
Yeah. Nobody call it Google.
Right. Yeah,
You
right.
know,
Yeah, how do you call them? That doesn't work.
Yahoo, they now have a pay for support service, but they can only go so far if the passwords have been changed. So this is what I'm saying. I think our email password should be pretty darn close to tier one.
I can't argue
But
with that.
so anyway, so this is why I say the gray area in tier two is, it could be things like credit cards. It could be things that maybe your health accounts, because I know there's a lot of argument about health, and some people put in tier one and tier two. Regardless, we almost want to say that tier one and tier two have unique passphrases that are pretty strong, really strong, and that we shouldn't reuse those
Correct. They
passwords.
shouldn't go from tier one to tier two. They should not migrate between the two.
No, 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 not at all. And then tier three is the ones that we don't really care about. And, those are things like, just for you or Lucky's rewards
Coupons
or
and
coupons. Nobody
right.
cares what coupons I'm shopping for. There's no real information on there. It might even be, I mean, honestly, a new Vista membership password. We
Right.
don't do anything with it. We just do it just for security reasons to make sure that we don't get Zoom bombers coming in. But I mean, when there's no real information, I almost say you can reuse those passwords.
I do a lot. I mean, it's when I'm in tier three, I really don't care. And it's typically
Right.
for like loyalty rewards and stuff like that, where I have to sign up for something that I really don't want to give information to. But if somebody hacks it, well, the risk that I'm going to lose anything is zero or
Yeah.
almost zero.
Yeah. I almost want to say there's two tiers, but there's still a gray area. We're still working that out. It's evolving. Technology is evolving. We evolve. We evolve our guidance. Now let's talk about the second part. So we have tier one, right? Tier two, tier three. We've kind of analyzed what kind of online accounts we have, and then we kind of put an importance on it. Okay. But now here's the second part that's equally as important. We want to create a pattern in how we write our passwords.
Yes.
And that way, if we have written it down and we just wrote a clear clue, like my dad's favorite song, hey, I know what it is. I know how I wrote it, right? And then I can keep going forward. But when we talk about creating a pattern, we talk about creating a pattern like first letter of capitalized, maybe a plus sign in between each word,
A
maybe the
dash
year
between or
or
yeah.
dash or equal sign or at sign or asterisk or whatever, and just put it in between every word, or write the whole passphrase, put it at the end, maybe put a date or a number or a year or something like that, or put it in the front. But anyways, the point of it is that it should be the same. You write it the same way every time.
Yes. So you
Now,
have the combination of your passphrase and then kind of this rule or pattern that you add to it. So now you can make it unique for every service.
yes. And so if we help create easy to remember words, we know how we write it every time. We know that we can create code words or encrypted messages on our password list, and then we know how we're supposed to write that password.
Great.
Okay. And then, so like I said, it could be, the first letter, it could be the second letter, it could be the last letter. It could be this, a connector, like a connector symbol anywhere in between or at the end, but as long as it's consistent.
Yeah, for me,
Now,
I always like to, preface or suffix, with like the first four letters of the service. Like, for example, Facebook, right?
yep.
So if I had the passphrase with dashes in the middle, brown fur morning sunshine, then I would say face dash brown dash fur dash morning dash sunshine. So it's always the same pattern, and then it's really easy for me to then customize it per site or per service.
Now you do that for your tier twos and tier threes, or you just use it for tier twos.
I do it for tier one and two. For tier three, I basically just reuse a very small passphrase that I reuse across all of them.
So you do that for your tier ones even.
Yes.
So I tell
I have a
people,
unique tier one though. I mean, it's
yeah,
not anywhere else.
all right. So I like to tell people, for those three or four or five um tier ones, just create a new passphrase every for each one.
Mm,
And so, either way it works. Um, but we're really trying to make it unique as possible. Okay.
yes.
And then, so here's the other part that I run into problems with: how to create passwords. And so I mean, people just like, what do I want to do or my password? Like, well, let's look around your office or your study or wherever you would usually do your work. If there's pictures, if there's books, if there's, things that are triggers, putting visual clues to how you want it to create passwords. Um, and so there's lots of different things and different ways to go. Again, try not to use personal, try not to use kids' names, pets' names, old addresses,
Yeah,
things like
anything that
that.
people can look up about you, don't use it.
Yeah. But I always say, hey, maybe it's movie phrases, maybe it's song titles, maybe it's a book title. One of my favorite things I wish more people would do is if everybody's I should say everybody. A lot of people have favorite books or books in their office. I don't have any books in my office, which is because I'm all digital, but that's a different story. But if you have a favorite book, and you have a password list, say you're writing it down, all you have to do is put like page number,
Yes.
and then you follow your pattern. It might be like the first three words of the second paragraph, and you have almost an endless amount of passwords. And
Yes.
so if somebody steals your password list, it says, "Oh, Facebook page 23." Nobody's gonna know what your
They're
password
gonna,
is.
well, page 23 of what?
Right. They won't know what book you're looking at unless you only have one book in your office, which that's a different story. But most people have a couple or a few. Um, and then you just follow your pattern, right? It's second paragraph, first three words, same pattern, first letter capitalized, connector. You can even do page number again. Nobody's going to find out. And so I always think that's an interesting way to do it. But I think more common is really just say, hey, think of favorite movie titles or movie state sayings or favorite
Yeah,
music
quotes
titles.
within a movie.
Right.
Go
Hey,
ahead,
you already
make
heard.
my day, or
Yeah.
what?
Well, you heard me once already, Luke. I am your
That's
father. So
right.
here's the other thing is make sure that you have the right saying because everybody like that one, everybody thinks it's one or the other. I don't Luke, I am your father, but it's something actually different. And
Right.
so, nobody will ever guess it then. But yeah, I think I mean if people follow those kind of simple steps of, you know, tiering, pattern, passphrases, and then generating ideas from different things like movie titles or song lyrics or books or sentences, whatever. I think people will have an endless amount of passwords that are relatively easy to remember. And again, we only have to do it for the tier ones and twos. And so, we need to make sure that people really focus on making unique passwords, especially for the most important ones.
Agreed.
All right, so that's our methodology that we talk about for passwords. Now let's talk about two-factor
Yeah,
authentication.
this one really gets to me because I people don't understand, well, why do I need two factors, right? The way I like to look at this is when I have my username and password, I have proven my identity to the service. But now, if I really want to be safe, I want the service to prove to me their identity.
Yep,
So two-factor does that because they need to know how to contact me. They need to know by what channel, whether it's by text, by email, by a two-factor authentication code, whatever it is. They need to be able to send it to me to something that they know that a hacker wouldn't, right? I mean,
yep,
it's not obvious. So this now proves to me, oh, this is the real service. It's not somebody that's in between, like the man in between attack or something like that. This is now actually the service, and the two-factor proves it. So now I prove myself to them. They prove them to me. Let's go ahead and do this.
hey, let me ask you something. Have you ever gone up and tried to high five somebody and they didn't respond?
Absolutely. They just sit there and look at you like, come on, don't leave me hanging.
So that's kind of what a two-factor authentication is, right? It's
Right.
like, hey, I'm gonna give my hand up with my password up, and if you don't reciprocate, you know, we're kind of left out holding, guessing, really.
Correct.
Am I really at the right place? Did I really try to high five somebody? Um, so that's really what it is. It's like, here's, stick my hand out. Here's my password. I stick my hand, I give this site my password. I'm sticking my hand out and they send you a code and they finish the handshake.
Yes.
Right? Same thing is like, don't leave me hanging. Don't leave me hanging. Um, But yeah, that's what two-factor authentication is. And I get all kinds of people telling me different things. I don't like the code. Why do I need to? Do I need to save the codes? No, you don't need
No,
to
you
save
don't.
the codes.
Because they're only for that session. They're never used again.
Yes, and most of them will say they'll expire in 15 or 30 minutes or whatever the case may be.
Right.
Um, and so don't save those. I've seen pages of codes being sent. Now, it requires a couple things. Two-factor authentication requires a couple things. It needs when you set up your account, you need to give them another email address or a phone number.
Correct.
And so if you only have one email address and your email address has been hacked, you have a problem. And you didn't give them a cell phone number. And most of them won't. I mean, I don't know what the number is. You can probably look it up. About half of them will call a landline and call you, and the other half won't. And so, almost at least in our neck of the woods, it seems like everybody has a cell phone. It's easier to get a cell phone than it is a landline these days.
Right.
And so, we highly recommend that when you establish an important account, that you use your cell phone as the second factor, the second authentication means. And if you have multiple email addresses, like I have, I don't know, you probably have like 10 emails. I know I have 10 email
Right.
addresses.
I think I've
You
got
know,
five personal ones.
yeah. Yeah, and I might use like a more secure one. Like I like the Proton Mail for more secure stuff. And so I might give my two-factor authentication to my one of my other email addresses that's not used very much publicly. But the easiest way is to get the cell phone number for to be used for two-factor authentication.
And I like it coming from a cell phone text because it's typically within, 10, 15 seconds, where sometimes emails can take minutes.
Yeah, we don't want to go there because then we'll get in this discussion about Apple Mail and going the circuitous
Oh,
route that it goes from
right.
from from Apple Mail to iOS servers and iCloud out to another mail server, down back through and all the
Oh,
way around. So everybody thinks it's going to happen instantaneously. It's and most of the good companies, it's near instantaneous if you use your cell phone.
correct.
And because they send it across SMS, which is kind of our plain old reliable text messaging services.
Yes.
And so it works. Now, we encourage everybody to use two-factor authentication, but there is a better way. At least it's a little more complicated. It's
Yeah,
sometimes a
the
little harder.
Authenticator app.
Yes, the
Yeah.
Authenticator app. And
I,
there's
I
several of them. There's
I
several of
like
them.
Authenticator apps now. Now I've been using them since what, the 90s?
Well, let's
Because
hold up. Let's
my
before we get there, let's talk what is an Authenticator app, right? And so
okay,
we should talk about what an Authenticator app because people are going to say, "Hey, what?" They're going to just launch into this. They don't even know what an Authenticator app is. So, Authenticator app is a program that's downloaded to your cell phone or tablet, and it's a localized two-factor or what they call OTP, one-time passcode generator
right.
um, that is stored locally on your device that somehow automatically synchronizes with the account that you're trying to log into, even if you are offline, which is crazy to me.
Yes.
It works even if your cell phone is offline and your computer is not. I don't know how they do it, but it's crazy. Um, but it resides only on your device, and it's what they call time. What is it? Time fixed or whatever. It only lasts for 30 seconds at a time.
Correct. And then it generates another code.
Yes, and so I use the Google Authenticator, and Microsoft has an authenticator. Some of our password managers have it as well. But do you use any other authenticator apps besides that? Those two?
No, mine, I typically just use my password manager, the one that's built into my password manager.
Yeah. But you said you've been using them since 2019.
Right. Well, remember, I used to get the little fob that had the six-digit code that every 30 seconds would be a new one that my company gave me. And
Mm.
I had to use that in order to log into my company's servers when I was at home or remotely if I'm out in the field. Uh, that was a very early form of it, but it was still the same underlying code as far as it being time-based and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, so let's talk about how that works. Um, so we have let's just say I downloaded an Authenticator app, and then I log in or create an account on a website, and they ask for two-factor authentication. And it asks you a couple of different ways you want to do it. You can say, hey, I want to do it by cell phone, I want to do it by email, or I want to do an Authenticator app.
Yes.
All right. And so you open up your phone, you open up the Authenticator app. There's usually a plus sign that says you want to add one. And when you create your account, it'll show you a QR code.
Correct.
Those little funny things that you guys see, we see all the time, those little squares with a bunch of stuff in it. And so you open up your Authenticator app, you say plus, you show the phone to that QR code, and then some magic happens where they synchronize things, and then it gives you another code to say, hey, verify, the other side of the handshake, make sure that, we're creating this authenticator for this website, go through the steps, you say, okay, great. So what happens the next time we go, let's just say we go on this, I go to your computer, or you
Right.
come to you use my laptop because you dropped yours down the ocean in Carmel somewhere,
Right.
and you need to log in. So what would you do? You go in and
So I would go in, let's say I'm using your computer.
yep.
Let's say I'm logging into my PayPal account, right? So I give PayPal my user ID, I give them my password, but then they're going to come back and ask for an authenticator. Then I come up with my phone and I look up the authentication code in my phone and I put it in and it takes it.
And it looks just like any other OTP or one-time
Correct.
passcode.
It's just the same six-digit thing like any other one-time pass. But it's just in my Authenticator app instead of coming over from my text or from an email. It's just generated right there on my phone.
So why do we think this is more secure?
So what I like about the Authenticator app is two things. Is the same seed, if you will, when we first create the first code between us and the service, it gets the exact same seed and synchronizes that, okay, we now know that we can create the Authenticator apps identically on both sides because we have the same seed, the same certification. All right. Now, whenever this happens, they're in sync in time and they use the exact same algorithm. So they know what to expect for the code, and we know how to generate that code. So it
Yeah.
makes it very, very secure. And what I like is that, let's say it's the other situation where it's already my computer and I'm using my Face ID or my fingerprint to get in. When I log into my PayPal account, it automatically puts my user ID, it automatically puts my password. Then it comes up with asking for the authentication code and it automatically puts that in. And all I did was touch it with my finger.
Yeah. You
So
know what?
it
You know
works
what it is?
really well.
So back to my handshake or my high five. I don't have to wait for the other guy to put up his hand for a high
Exactly.
five.
Right? Because we already high-fived once. We don't need to do it again.
Exactly. And so, it's kind of a long way of getting around to it, but it's basically it puts the one-time passcodes in our control.
Yes,
When we want them, we can do it on demand. Now, it's also more secure for a lot of other reasons. When we get one from the cell phone or a text, or we get from the email, those codes are good for like 30 minutes usually, 15
correct.
to 30 minutes. Um, Somebody can intercept in 30 minutes or 15 minutes, or you walk away from your computer or your phone because you're waiting for something. Somebody picks it up and gets in. I know that's not likely, but it happens. Um, this is only good for 30 seconds. I don't know how many times I've had to wait for the 30 seconds to be up so I can
Right. So you can put in
read
another
another one.
code.
But it's only 30 seconds. But the other thing is it's on our device.
Right.
I mean, it's stored locally, and this is kind of one of those things we haven't talked about very much, especially in kind of Apple versus everybody else, is that things that are on our device are inherently more secure because they don't go anywhere else. So we have let's just say a password that is on in our browser, for example. Okay. And Chrome. It's in the Google Cloud.
Correct.
Passwords that are on our iPhone stay on our iPhone pretty much.
Right.
Just
It's
a
in the keychain, which is now their passwords app, and that's also in
yeah,
the cloud.
yeah. But I mean, things like codes and things like that are there. The movement is to on device. Right?
Yes.
The technology movement is to really focus on device. Apple for again, not that we're my relationship with Apple, I got a love-hate relationship with them.
So do I, and I'm an Apple fan.
Yeah, but I mean, like their AI is trying to get on the device.
Correct.
And so, everybody's concerned about saying, hey, the things that I ask AI, it goes in the cloud, but Apple's kind of saying, well, no, we're going to try to figure it out and how to do it on device. So all those recordings of those questions don't really go up in the cloud and intrudes on our privacy. And so bottom line is the Authenticator app stays on our device so that again, it makes it a little more secure, or in a lot of ways, a lot more secure. Just like our biometrics, it stays on our device. It's
Correct.
on
It
a little
never
chip
leaves the
on our
device.
device and
Right.
never leaves. Somebody asked me the other day, they go, well, I don't want to use facial ID because it goes in the cloud and they'll have my face. I said, well, that's not how it works.
Not at all.
It stays on your device on this fancy little chip that's, in that little phone of yours. And it doesn't leave. And
Right.
so,
That's one of the things too. I mean, from a practical standpoint, every time you get a new device, you
yeah.
might migrate all your information over, but your Face ID or your fingerprint doesn't come over. You have to reteach it.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. That's a great point. And if it was backed up somewhere else, it would come
It would come
automatically.
over, right? But it's not backed up anywhere.
Yeah, no, I didn't think about that, but yeah, that's a great point. But anyways, so that's why we like Authenticator apps. It's shorter term, it's on your device. I can control the handshake. It is, but there are cons to it. There are some cons to it.
The
And it's more user interface kind of things.
Exactly. I think the most of the Authenticator app things, it's easy for geeks, but if you're not like a geeky computer person, it can be a little bit it's circuitous in a way, right? You got to use QR codes, you got to put it in the app, and you got to know when to use it. It can be confusing sometimes.
Well, I'll even go a step further. I probably have 15 uh, apps I use for in the Authenticator app. And so it takes me a while to find the right code because they don't give us the ability to make a shortcut out of it. Like, hey, this is a new Vista's Authenticator. It says something something something, a new Vista something something something,
Right.
and so the title is hard to, and it's not like it's color coded. And
No.
so it makes it sometimes hard to find. And then by the
Well,
time I find it, then I gotta like either write it down if I'm on my phone or copy and paste it. And sometimes it doesn't paste right. And then I go back again, I have to get another one because 30 seconds says ended
just
up.
30 seconds. Well, this is the one reason why I really like using the Authenticator app that's built into my password manager because
Yeah.
it does do it by service or by account. So if I've got my PayPal, credentials showing on my password manager, well, the authentication code is there also. I don't have to go searching for it in another list.
Now, hold on. So hold on. So we just talked about authenticators being for geeks and nerds.
Yes.
I also think that password managers are also
Very
for
geeky.
geeks and nerds. And then you throw the authenticator piece on top of it, and it's even more nerdy.
Yeah, it's geek squared, right?
Yes. And so let's put a wrapper on authenticator apps or two-factor. Let's
Okay.
two-factor authentication. So, and then we'll talk about password managers. So two-factor authentication, absolutely tier one, tier two accounts, you should be using two-factor authentication, whether it's by your cell phone, whether it's by another email that you don't use very often or just use for that some specific needs, or if it's Authenticator app. Any one of those is better than not using two-factor authentication at all.
And a lot of places are demanding that you use it now.
Yes. And so, and don't be afraid to put your cell phone in there. everybody says, "Oh, we're gonna get phone calls." You don't get phone calls from using two-factor authentication on your apps. And I've improved it. I have a second number that I use, a second cell phone number that I use for my one-time passcodes. I haven't gotten a single phone call on that number
Wow.
ever because I don't give it out to anybody.
Right.
Even if I use it for a two-factor authentication, nobody has it. And so no, I've never gotten a spam call. I've never gotten a phone call on it on that number. And so that's a little extreme for people that just, hey, you get a separate phone number for it. But you have we highly recommend that people use two-factor authentication for tier one, tier twos at least for
Yeah.
those accounts.
And
And it
I
doesn't matter.
typically will recommend to a cell phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you should have maybe a backup in case also.
Well,
Maybe
and
it's an
a lot of places will let you do that now. They'll let you
yeah.
have two things, but set a primary. And my
Yes.
primary is typically going to be recommended to be a your cell phone number.
Yeah. And so, it's we just have to make sure that people use it. Like I said, Microsoft, at least in their study, said that it prevents 99.99% of identity theft.
Yep.
So I know people get irritated because they have to wait and they have to wait for a text or have to wait for an email. But what we always like to say is an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Okay, before we go to password managers, though, I want to mention one other thing
Sure.
because this is coming about in a way that's trying to help us to not have to remember passwords. It is something called passkeys. And
Oh,
what a passkey does is it just takes our biometrics and then associates with the biometric our user ID, our password, and a two-factor authentication code, all wrapped into one piece. It's not, it doesn't have these multiple steps to it. It happens all in one step, and it happens with just using our biometric. We don't have to even remember a password. And the passkeys are very secure. The problem I have with them right now is that they still really aren't that mature. For me,
no.
whenever I use a passkey, it works the first time, maybe 70% of the time, and then it'll like kick me out and say, "Oh, you're not logged in," and I have to try it again, which can be
Well,
frustrating. So it's
yeah, well, for nerds like us who have like 15 devices that we're working off at any one given time, it
right,
is hard because the passkey, like we talked about, again, biometrics, so it's linked to your biometrics. Biometrics are stored on your device.
correct.
And so I can't use, if I set up a passkey on my phone for an account,
You have
I
to set
can't
up a
go to my
different one on your computer.
laptop and try to use a passkey because it doesn't exist on my laptop. I have to go back to my phone to authorize usage of that account on my laptop.
Yes.
And if you have multiple devices, it's really irritating to figure out which device the passkey is on.
Well, you can actually set up multiple passkeys though. But then again, now you have to manage all that, right? And so it's
Yes.
like it gets complex
Well,
fast.
and people are getting tricky on asking to use it. And so, not to mention a few companies that use passkeys. Now, before I get there, there's only probably a couple dozen companies that use passkeys.
Yeah, they're not it's not everywhere right now.
But those people who are, those companies who are trying to use passkeys are really tricky. Like, hey, you want to use a passkey, and everybody just clicks yes, and then they forget that they had said yes. And you might not even have Windows Hello or a Mac that has fingerprint ID set up. And then you're like, okay, well now what? And so it just gets kind of cumbersome to do some of this stuff. So I don't like passkeys because of just which device it's sitting on, but also that there's no kind of real methodology or I mean, we're trusting that these companies are doing the right thing. I don't think it's been standardized. The technology has been necessarily standardized across multiple companies.
Well,
I
definitely
might be
the
wrong.
user interface and the way it works has not been standardized. I think the way our information is protected has been standardized, but if people aren't following the rules, how do I know, right?
Yes, we don't
So
know.
like if I'm dealing one of the big three that created the standard, Google, Apple, and Microsoft, right? They adhere exactly to the standard. But outside of that, I'm not sure unless I have a good relationship with the company.
Well, Amazon uses passkeys, or they suggest
Yeah,
a passkey all the time. How are they using the same standard?
don't know.
Right. We don't know. I mean, maybe, probably.
Right.
I would hope so, but we don't know. And so, we'll probably get in trouble for saying this, but I just think it's the user interface isn't great for people who have multiple devices.
Yeah, I agree, and it's not reliable enough yet.
And so, but it's, I don't know. People ask me all the time about it. I just tell them I don't think it's ready for prime time. And if you have multiple devices, it gets to be difficult. Now, in a world where all our millennials and younger only have their phone, sure, go
Right.
ahead.
That is their
Right, go ahead.
computer.
Yeah, they don't even use a computer. And so they
Right.
might use glasses or something else, but a lot of people just have their phone. And if you just have your phone, it's probably, you could probably use it, right? As long as
Right.
your phone is fairly new. But then what happens when you break it?
Yeah. Then you gotta recreate all of it.
Yeah. And so I don't know. I'm not there yet. I'm not convinced. I mean, it's just my opinion. I'm not convinced yet on I think it's a great idea. It's still early, it's still young,
Yes. There's still
as
it's still got teething pains.
so let's talk about password managers.
Okay.
So what is a password manager?
So a password manager is, a repository where we put all of our passwords into an app. It's basically a database that just holds all of these things in an encrypted format so that even if somebody steals our device or steals the file, the database itself, they can't read it because it's all encrypted. So it's a very safe way of storing stuff. The only thing is that interacting with it and getting it set up is kind of geeky. You've got to go through all of these things to get it operating. Then you have to get it to operate with your browsers, to make sure that you can then log into all these different places. Once you have that set up, it does kind of follow you around everywhere. And then as you use passwords, it will just learn. You don't really have to sit there and do a lot to get it running because it'll just follow you everywhere you go, learn your passwords, and then offer them back to you so you don't have to remember it. And
Yeah,
it can even and it can even present passwords to you, like random strings and things like that, which I've seen some people use, especially in tier one accounts, right? These very randomized strings, and it's
but
only in
they
the
are
password
longer than
manager.
8. They're usually
They're
much longer
really
than 8.
long. Yeah, they're like
Yeah.
256 bits, right? Or
Yeah.
longer.
So this is where I like password managers.
I do
And we'll
too.
talk about kind of the pros and cons of it. The one part that we differ on is that I won't put my tier ones, like my true
Right.
financials, investments into a password manager. I'm of the mind that anything can be cracked. And so, in fact, one of those password managers a few years ago did get hacked. And
Right.
so, I don't trust my cash to anybody, but everything else I'd probably put in there, or I do put in there. I just keep those separate, just because it's too hard to earn our money and to be able to have to go back and figure out how to get it back. And so
Yeah, and
I don't know if you still you put all of them in there, but I will use one without putting my tier ones in there.
yeah, so all of mine are in my one password account. And the thing I like about one password, and there's I think one other one. I think is it BitPass? I can't remember which one, but um, they have not just your user ID and password to get in, they also have a uniquely generated secret key that's quite long
Yeah.
to get in, which again is a pain in the butt when you first set it up. But once
Yeah.
it's set up and running, it works great, and it's very hard for anybody to hack that unless they have that secret key.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the it is, I might be over paranoid about people being able to crack into anything. They have been proven to be safe, at least to date. And so we'll just wait till quantum AI computing starts, and then
Quantum computing changes everything.
yeah, but really they are relative. Now, my issue though with password managers is they're not that easy to use. They seem to once they're, the few times that you get it right, it works amazing. You
Yes.
know, um, But every time there's an upgrade, every time there's an update, every time there's something changes, if you clean your cookies or whatever, things just you have to re-enter your password. I can't tell you how many times I have to re-enter my master password or my fingerprint to unlock it.
Yes.
And so
And
it being the vault that all the passwords are stored under.
right. Or and
Um,
then what I notice too is sometimes services online will they change the way they namespace their, the different sections of their web page or whatever.
yes.
So now the
Yes.
login URL has changed. And so then our password manager just sits there and like, I don't know what that is.
Right. So it has to be exact. So, you know, and we might have something like, let's just say next door or not next door, Facebook, um I have probably 10 different entries for Facebook,
Right. Because their
and
login thing changes.
the login thing changes, or I might go a different way or whatever the case may be, and so we'll have different ones, and so that's where it also gets confusing. And where it also gets confusing is, don't forget to put the browser extension in.
Right.
And so each, not just one, if you use multiple browsers, so I'm looking at my computer and I've got Edge, Opera, Brave, Chrome, Firefox.
Right.
Like,
And you need an extension for every single one of
yes, you need to go out and say, hey, to the extension. And honestly, most people don't know what extensions are.
them.
I
Right.
would I would guess I would just more than half the people who use a computer don't know what an extension is.
Right.
And so, or how to even get it, but you need to go out to the Chrome store, the Apple store, or the web store, the Firefox web store, whatever the case may be, and get the extension for the password manager that you're using, because almost every account that we go online for is through a browser. And so we have to make sure that that's in, and then you have to make sure that you're logged into your browser extension, which is connected to your app, and then maybe it'll fill in. And then if you have saved some passwords in your browser already, then they conflict and they overwrite
Yes.
each other, and you can't see it. And so it can be messy. I mean, I get it. It's a great way. I almost use it just as a repository sometimes.
Right.
And so I'll just go, I'm not even going to bother with the extension. I'll go look it up and I'll copy it and put it in.
At this point, since I've been using, one password since 2006, I'm dependent on it.
Yeah.
So I really can't exist without it. But everyone I've tried to get using is like I have a family version of it, right? No one else in my family will use it because it's just too difficult to set up initially.
Well, we I have the family one also, and I still get the calls. Hey, Dad, what's the Netflix password?
I know. I
It's
tell people it's in the shared vault, on one
yes,
password. Go ahead and get it.
it's under the topic entertainment. So we didn't talk about that. So let's talk about one of the benefits of a password manager is that you have the ability to share some or all of your
Right.
passwords to friends or family or close ones, and this is really important in our clientele. Our clientele obviously are seniors, and things happen with as we get older. And we talk a lot about this in our digital legacy planning um, tech talks. But there's a lot of information stored in lots of different areas, whether it be your cloud accounts or your online banking accounts or whatever. And if nobody has access to that, they can't help you.
Right.
And so this is a great way to make sure that you share passwords with loved ones. And we occasionally we change our passwords. And so when we change it in the password and on the account, and it saves it in the password manager, it'll save it in the vault that you've shared with somebody.
Yes.
And so
And
it's really important feature to, and especially with the people we work with in our clientele, is that there's a backup in case something happens or we're incapacitated. I mean, and it's, I shouldn't just say it's for anybody, right? It's anybody. We can get hit by a car tomorrow and become
correct.
incapacitated. And so, if that happened to me, my wife say, "Where's the passwords?" Well, she can go into my password manager and get most of the passwords.
Yes. And I like, when we have to coordinate things with caretakers, we can give them privileges on our password manager too. They don't have to have access to everything, but we
Right.
can give them access to the things that we need to continue to function.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish they'd make it easier to use.
I know. I
Just the
think
user interface.
I'm hoping Passkeys and the next generation of password managers gets it that easy. But so far, no good.
Yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, I will say at the very least, if you don't want to use it to auto-populate everything, at least it's a safe repository.
Yes.
At the
You know,
very
it's almost like
least.
a safety deposit box for your passwords.
And it's really important. And so, you know, this has been a long conversation. People think about passwords. Oh, I got a password. We talked about almost an hour on just different elements of what a password
Has
is,
it been
and
that long?
I don't know. It will be here by the time we're done. But I mean, passwords is a necessary evil, and what we're going to tell people is at the very, very least, do not reuse your passwords.
Correct.
And so we should probably review one more time. Use passphrases, tier your accounts, create a pattern, write them down, code it, make sure they're all unique. Use a password manager to store them. Then intermediate and advanced users can use it to auto-populate across.
And they
Um,
can integrate authentication manager or, authentication maps too.
yeah, and then make sure we use two-factor authentication.
Yep.
We're not super hip on Passkeys. It works and it's super secure, but there's just a lot of things
There's
going
a
on
lot
with
of
it.
teething pain still.
Yeah, and so if we did this conversation a year from now, we might have a different viewpoint on it.
I'm
But
hoping so.
as at this point, like I said, it seems secure. It's passwordless system basically, and we can there's a lot of hope for it. Any other kind of thoughts or comments you have about passwords?
Nah, we pretty much covered it.
Yeah, there's lots to passwords. It's one of our most popular conversations that we have. But
Yeah,
it
the tech talks are
is,
really popular.
yeah, nobody likes passwords. Nobody likes them. There's a lot of energy invested into passwordless systems. And so, we'll get there eventually. But like I said, for now, we need to make sure that people use unique passwords, right? Just use unique passwords, especially for tier one, tier twos. All right. So what do? We do like 200 plus classes a year. They're all free. They're all on Zoom. We might be in a bunch of different places like Eschaton or Veterans Memorial Center or the V or Milpitas or the Truesdale or whatever else, City of Mountain View, wherever else we might be. But they can always get us online.
Absolutely.
Where do we find us?
ANVCS.org.
ANVCS.org, and New Vista Community Services.org. We are a nonprofit, 501c3, and all these classes are provided free by our grantors and partners. Again, Peninsula Healthcare District, Dignity Health, Sequoia Health District, El Camino Healthcare District, Silicon Valley Community Foundation, Los Altos Mountain View Community Foundation, the Rotary, Forum, Charitable Fund, Health Trust, Touchpoint, Comcast. We have lots of different people. Easter Cross, we didn't
Hmm.
mention that before, and so we are made possible by the generosity of those grantors and the generosity of our donors, our individual donors. We shouldn't forget those people as well.
Yes.
And so, it's again anvcs.org. Catch a new class or a topic that you might find yourself interested in, and we are on Spotify, working our way through to other podcasts. But we suggest if you like the conversation to go ahead and follow us. So when a new episode pops up, we're going to try to do it every week. We don't do it every week, but we're going to try. You'll get notified when there's a new episode. And so follow us on Spotify as well. All right. Anything final thoughts?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Let's play off the music and let's see what will happen here if we get as we send off. Until next time, safe surfing, learn technology one click at a time, and come visit us at a class online. Thank you, Nat. Have a good night.
Cheers all.